Hey everybody, it's Josie. Welcome back to Cedar Creek Homestead. It's late Saturday afternoon. I hope you guys have had a wonderful day. It's been nice and sunny here today, kind of breezy, kind of chilly, but it hasn't been raining. It's been rainy all week, and we're not complaining about that. It started on Sunday with the tornado on Sunday evening, and then it's rained ever since. And I think there might have been a day or so where it didn't rain, but then we got rain that evening. So the ponds are filling up, and I'll show you one of the ponds now. Girl here is up here close to the pond. I hope you guys can hear the wind is picking up some, but you can tell that we've gotten rain starting Sunday night with the tornado that come through, and then just about every day of the week. This past week we've had a little bit of rain, so it's beginning to make a difference in the ponds. They're not full. You can tell down here is usually full of water, and it's still it's mushy, it's muddy, mucky, but it's not full of water yet. So we've got a ways to go, but boy, is it an improvement over what we had, so we're thankful for that. Here is this is the pecan tree that is out on the peninsula of the future pond shape that we're planting. And you can see that it had a great big limb broken out of it on one side and some smaller limbs broken out on the other side. And this is just one of the trees that we've got to clean up. We've got some other big trees out in our pasture that's got some leaf cleanup to do, and still some more work to do in the yard. But then with all the stuff with the kids having to be in the hospital in Tulsa, all of this is kind of on hold for a little bit, but it'll get done. And the sun is shining, and the pond water is looking better. The pastures are beginning to green up again. You can kind of see it's greening up. I hope it's coming across green on the screen. And it is looking a whole lot better than it did, and so I'm thankful for that. And the cows will have some forage going into the fall. It was beginning to look bad, and I had already started to have to feed hay and my winter grains. And so this will, hopefully if this comes on and greens up, we'll be doing a lot better. And so you can see the pond that I just showed you is off to the left here, and I can see even further, being further back now, I can see way up in those big pecan trees, I see more small limbs that are broken, that are just hanging, and we'll have more work to do on those so that everybody will be safe when they're out around that, and so the cattle be safe, and so we've got some more tree damage to pick up. I brought you down in the pasture today, and my intentions were to show you another view with all the cattle back behind me. And I got down here and got set up and dealt with Sadie chasing the cows and having to correct her. And in the process of all of that, the cows have moved off to other areas, and so no longer are they back behind me. They look so pretty back there in that sunshine, and you can see their coats and all of the different cows and calves, and so they've moved on, and so now all you can see back behind me is pasture. And I'm behind another big, or actually I guess I'm in front of another big oak tree that you can see, and it is shading the sun as it's coming around this way. And I thought that I'd just take a little bit of time to say thank you to all of you that have prayed for Blade and Cheyenne and baby Howie and for me. And we have felt your prayers, and we still covet your prayers. We are believing that baby Howie is going to be all right. They are still in the hospital. This morning they were talking about possibly sending them home, but Cheyenne is in such fear because we live so far away from the hospital, and if she goes into labor any time now, it would be an emergency situation. And for her to be able to get from here back to Tulsa, she has such fear in her little heart. And I understand that. I have that fear too. But so after they told her that, She was trying to, just take it easy, and they have moved her out of the delivery into a regular room, just to give her time to be monitored, and and then monitor the baby. And they were monitoring the baby this morning, and his heart rate dropped. And so, they're really watching that now. He's not in distress or anything like that. He's okay. They have her up and walking. Her water hasn't broken. But if her water does break and she goes into labor, they're not going to stop it. They have determined that baby Howie weighs about 3 pounds and 14 ounces, so almost 4 pounds. And they've been giving him medication, or been giving, I guess actually through Cheyenne, have been giving steroids to strengthen his lungs. And so they're making all of these preparations, that just in case he comes early, that they are a step ahead of the game, and we believe that they're in the best place that they could possibly be for what's going on. And again, we say thank you for all of your prayers and all of your well wishes, and your reaching out to us. We appreciate that so much. Well, today I thought I would try to talk to you guys just a little bit about what's on my heart. I feel like I've been doing a lot of heart-to-hearts here lately, and not enough recipes and things on the farm and the garden and all that stuff. And forgive me if you guys will, but today is my anniversary. And if my sweet Howie were here, we would be celebrating 28 years. We were married on October the 16th in 1993, and we had a beautiful wedding. And a lot of you have been asking questions and asking for me to take some time to tell you how we met and that kind of stuff. So those of you that aren't interested in this kind of stuff, Blade would tune this out. He doesn't like to watch the girly shows. That's what Howie always laughed. And he didn't like to watch the chick flicks, or whatever you want to call them. And so this might be something that you're not interested in at all, but I thought that I would just share a few little things with you about our marriage and about marriage in general. And so people have been asking, and Howie and I met through his fiance, actually. She was a friend of mine, and a work friend, and they were dating, and I met him through her, and they were set to get married, and that's how things were moving. And I did think that he was a very nice and very godly and very nice looking young man, but he was hers, and he wasn't mine. And so anyway, there was lots of people praying for Howie. Mr. Brother and Sister Chisholm were praying for Howie to get the right girl, and my family was praying for me. They wanted me out of their hair. Not really. They were praying for me to get a good guy. And Howie said that one day his young sister Tina was his roommate, and she was friends with this girl. And he was at the kitchen sink washing dishes, and she told him that this gal was on the way, and he said his stomach turned, and he just had no desire for her to even come over to his house. His heart had turned against her. Now, that's not saying anything against her as a person. She's a nice person, and it wasn't anything. She didn't do something to cause him this. It's just that his heart turned. And what it was there were people praying for him. There were people that were interceding, and that's something that you need to consider with your children, is to get in and pray for your children. Pray that they get the right person. Pray that they get the right job. All the things that are in their life, that you pray that they are in the Lord's will. Well, beyond that, get the part about meeting through his fiance through. That part's done. And that was in 92. And then after that, after they broke up, Howie began to ask me out and to ask me to go places. Well, you guys know that I was bashful, and I was extremely bashful. And I really, really, really liked him a lot. But I was so bashful that I couldn't bring myself to go anywhere or to even talk to him at church. I would just act like he wasn't even there. It was awful that he even gave me the amount of time that he did. But he kept on, and there were glimmers of hope. You know, I would give in, and pardon me, I would give in, and I would speak to him, or we would, you know, our first date was, now we were both, you know, living on meager funds at that time, and so our first date, he asked me, was at Christmas time of 92, that I gave in and went on a date with him. And it was so sweet, and we got gifts for each other. Well, the date was at the parsonage of our church, and the parsonage was being used as Sunday school rooms. The parsonage is a house that a church has that their pastor usually lives in, and our church didn't need that because the pastor, my grandparents, had their own home, and so they didn't need the parsonage, and so the church used the parsonage as Sunday school classes. So we met at the parsonage and I think it was after the church service on a Wednesday night. He was getting ready to go in and spend Christmas with his family here in Oklahoma. And so we met, and bless his heart, he made TV dinners for our first date, and they're in the oven there at the parsonage, and we exchanged our little gifts, and I still have, he got me a little bear. There was a lady in our church that made ceramics. And he went to the ceramic shop, and he knew that I liked bears. And so he got this little ceramic bear for me. And when I first saw it, I thought it was so ugly. I did think it was ugly. But it's one of my most cherished possessions. I still have it. I had it in storage when our house burned, and so I didn't lose it. I still have it to this day. And it's become a cherished item that I have. So we had that date, and then we didn't really, you know, we would say words, talk, you know, say a few words to each other, and we went back to the asking out, and I don't know, and just, I'm surprised he even held on as long as he did. And we had church elections, and we were involved, both of us were heavily involved with the children in our church and the teenagers. And we were nominating at the church education director. And I was nominated for that, and I was so excited to fill that position. And you had to be a member of the church. Well, Howie was nominated as well. And so I heard different ones back behind me. Oh, yeah, he would be good, you know. And of course, immediately it was, well, he's not a member of the church. And I thought, well, you know, I've got that made. I'll get to be in that position. Well, they opened church membership right then, which never happens. And they made him a member of the church. And then they held the vote. And, of course, he became the education director, and I became his assistant. And at first I was kind of aggravated about that, because I thought, I've been going there all this time. This is my home church, and I've done all this work, and then he comes in and he just takes the job. But, you know, I was thinking, you know, that's where it all began. us working together. And there has to be a lead. And he was the lead, and he needed to be the lead. He had those leadership skills. I'm a worker, and I love to do projects and you know, put my hand on things. But he was the leader. He had that, and God knew that. And so anyway, I could go on and on and on about that story. But we had to go on a trip with the young people for a talent competition that our denomination held. And we went on that, and one of the ladies in our church that was a driver, she assigned seats on the trip to Tennessee. And she assigned me and Howie seats together. We had to sit together, and one of the young teenage girls, I was the teen teacher, and she got up there, and they were just like my little sisters is how I treated them. And she got up there to squeeze in to sit up there with us and carry on conversation all the way. And Sister Virginia made this little gal move, and so we had to be right there together. And on the way down, we talked some, and then something happened. We ate supper together, and I ironed his clothes for the next day for the competition. I don't really know how that happened. I must have volunteered to iron his clothes. And on, the love bug struck, and from then on, there wasn't a time that if he was going somewhere, there was a question if I was going with him. I just did. And that was in the springtime. And I got an engagement ring on my birthday in June. And in October, on the 16th, we were married. So it was something that the Lord blessed. And when we got married, I hope I'm not boring you guys. When we got married, Howie and I had communion, just the two of us. In the middle of the wedding ceremony, instead of lighting unity candles, we chose to have a ceremony where the two of us took communion and invited God into our marriage. We're both children from divorced families, and we saw the struggles that could cause, the pain that causes sometimes, even in Christian marriages. And we just determined that we didn't want that. We didn't want any part of that. We wanted to, when we said I do, to stay together. And so we knew that the best chance that we had was to invite God into our marriage. And that meant a commitment, not just to ourselves, but to Him, that we would do the best that we could to work things out. And He's always been faithful to be right there with us in all the things that we face throughout our marriage. I'll tell you an interesting fact about Howie. Before we got married, when we were first dating, when we were first starting to even consider looking at each other, that Christmas that we had that TV dinner, the church had a Christmas party for the workers. And so, and I still have a picture of Howie at that party. At that time, I hid from the camera as much as I could, so there's not a whole lot of pictures of me. But I have a picture of him at that party. And he didn't have a mustache. But we were sitting there with some friends of ours that had been married for a couple of years, and we were talking about us. The two of us girls were talking about what we liked in men, and somehow we got on the subject of mustaches, and I made the comment that I liked mustaches. Well, I'll tell you, my Howie grew a mustache, and he had it from then on. I never saw him again without a mustache. He always grew one, and I loved it. I can truly say that God blessed me with my best friend. And if you, in your marriage, you can say that you're married to your best friend. We have friends. We have best friends, our best girlfriend or our best guy friends. But your best friend should be your spouse. And Howie was my best friend. He knew everything about me that I have ever revealed to another person. Howie was the one that I revealed it to. And I believe that I was the same with him. We had differences, and a lot of people say, oh, we never fight. Well, bless them. I don't know how they get past it, because even my sweet, sweet grandparents, on occasion, I would hear them kind of fuss at each other. And we made mistakes, but we came into the marriage with differences, and everyone does. Don't let the differences that you have when you come into your marriage be the things that causes such big fights throughout your married life. This is just a simple thing, but it's what came to my mind today, and I wanted to use it as an example. Is Howie and I both came from big families. I came from, there were 7 kids at one time. I have more brothers and sisters than that. But at one time, there were 7 of us in one household. And Howie had 5 in his, 5 siblings, and I had 7. And so spaghetti was an easy supper and could feed a lot of people. In my family, spaghetti was nothing more than orange pasta with a little bit of hamburger meat spread throughout it, and I loved it. And I like spaghetti today that same way. But that was not spaghetti to Howie. Howie grew up with a Italian granny, and she made pasta, and she made sauce. Kept them separate, and you put your sauce on your pasta to make it just as saucy as you wanted it to be. And to him, that was the idea of pasta. And that's how Blade likes his pasta. Now, I like it that way, but I prefer the way that I grew up. But you could spend all your years arguing and fussing back and forth over something so simple as spaghetti, and just learn to put less sauce on it if you want less sauce. When Howie and I got married, we decided that we were committed to working on any kind of problem that might arise. And today I would say that there are so many people that the first little sign of trouble, you want to leave. And we decided that we weren't going to leave. Now, I'll have to say, and he would tell you too, that there were times that we would be so mad at each other that we just wanted to leave. And you'd get in the car to go, and I would get in the car to go, get to the end of the driveway, and there would be nowhere to go. Because we also committed that we were not going to go home to our families and take our fights in to them and try to get them on one side or the other. We'd seen too many times in our lives that caused problems. And so we decided not to do that. To this day, I don't think my parents know of any time that something was going on that I ran home and told them anything. And Howie was the same way. We just kept it between us. Now, I'm not talking about in instances where somebody's in an abusive relationship or something like that. I'm not speaking to that, because if you are in that kind of a relationship, of course you need to say something. Of course you need help. But I was not in that kind of relationship. It was just simply when we were in times of disagreement, heated disagreements sometimes, but disagreements. We just made it something that we committed to from the beginning, is that we didn't go home and share all of our grievances with our family members, because they say blood's thicker than water, and you get your family on your side, and then it causes conflict with your spouse and your family, and I didn't want that. I loved him, and he was precious, and I wanted them to feel the same way towards him. Same with me. Howie's family treats me wonderfully, and I know it's because Howie didn't go home and say, "You'll never guess what she did this time." Those are not things. When you leave your father and mother and you become one with your spouse, you are a new family, and you are not to go home and try to get all of this stuff stirred up. I don't think. Now, y'all could tell me, and some of you probably will, that I'm wrong about that. But for the most part, things belong inside your family. Howie and I never stayed gone away from each other in anger. There were times that he had to go to Little Rock or another place and stay overnight for training for the job that he was on. Or I would have a women's ministries retreat where we were gone overnight. Or he would be on a Royal Rangers camp out, which is a Christian version of the Boy Scouts, or church camp or something like that. But we never ever left home mad at each other and stayed like at my mom's or his parents and stayed gone from each other. He would go on hunting trips, you know, come into Oklahoma to his families and hunt. But there was never a time that we were gone from each other mad. Marriage isn't something that you take lightly. You take on a partner for life, no matter how many years it is that you have together. I had a little over 27 years. I wished I had a whole lot longer, but 27 years is what I had, and I can say that we made the most of it. We loved it. We got to do things in our life that we never thought were possible. And were we world travelers? No. Were we wealthy beyond our wildest imagination? No. But we were happy. We were working for the Lord. We were ministering. I've spent many a time listening to Howie, and I would say to this day he's my favorite preacher. I loved his sermons. He always brought humor into it, an interest to the people. I've sung many songs with him, many prayers, and I can say to this day he's my best friend. I was blessed. I was blessed to be his. We've lived in not very many states. We lived in Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma. And if he was here, he would tell you that Oklahoma was by far his favorite place to live. He started here and he finished here, almost in the same exact place that he started out. We are on his home place. His daddy started here, and he started here. Blade didn't start here, but Blade is here, and Blade's little boy is going to start here. And so we're blessed. Do I miss him? Oh, yes, I do. This has been a rough year. But God is good. God is faithful, and God has been with me. I don't want to make this a pity video. I just want to say that love those that are around you. Your spouse, your children, your grandchildren. Oh, your parents, your brothers and sisters. Love those that God has put in your life. For the amount of time that you have with them, love them and enjoy life. Now you know a little bit more about me and Howie. And I want to say I love you guys. I really do. This is Josie with Cedar Creek. We're gone.